This is episode 157 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 157 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Allan Bell on the show, and today's show is a little bit unique because we're not really so much talking about the successes, although there are some successes, but in this episode we cover what happens when things don't go right. So Allan had a really successful first project when he started about a year ago. After being in the mortgage industry for several years, he decided to get in as an investor, started in Chatham, had a successful project, and his story is one of adaptation. When things don't go right, he found solutions. But his second project, he hired out a general contractor and things weren't delivered as discussed, despite the fact that this guy was recommended. And that just goes to show that even when you have a contractor that's recommended, you still have to take precautions to make sure you mitigate your downside. There's always a downside. Don't take unnecessary risk with certain parties. So that's one of the big takeaways I took from this episode. I loved hearing Allan's story, and I was really glad that he shared it because not that many people will come on and share that type of stuff. And that is how we learn. When companies fail, when people fail, we can all learn from that. So you should always learn from other people's failures rather than making those failures yourself. I'm a big believer in that. Of course, I've learned from my own failures, but now I'm much more keen on learning from others. And of course, using deductive reasoning to make sure that I'm following a path that's going to mitigate my risks the best I possibly can. I'm confident you're going to get a lot out of this episode. A couple of housekeeping items before we get going. Number one, as always, I'll ask you to please take a moment and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever it is you're listening, if they'll allow you to make a review. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and leave me a comment. It'll just help more people to find the show and help it grow, help it help more people. Furthermore, if you would like to get on a call one-on-one with me and ask me anything in the book about construction, development, flipping, BRRRRing, investing in the US, investing in trailer parks, anything that I've covered on this podcast is totally fair game. If you'd like to do that, that can be booked through my website at andrew-hines.com/coaching. And one more item to check off is I was having an issue with my cash flow spreadsheet that was available on my website. I believe the issue is now fixed. So if you didn't get the sheet, feel free to just send me a message on Instagram and I can send it to you directly. And if you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and go straight to my website and you can enter your name and email and you'll have a copy of that cash flow spreadsheet sent to you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into episode 157 with Allan Bell. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Allan Bell on the show. I think I've been seeing your Instagram handle up there for years now. And so I guess this was overdue. Allan, thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
I don't know too much about your investing story. Do you mind filling me in on all the details there?
Yeah, sure. So private lending was kind of where I started. I've been a mortgage agent now for almost 4 years, and I've been private lending for 3.5. And then,
so you've been doing the lending?
Yeah. I've been doing the lending for about 3.5 years through my RSPs. Transferred everything out of my stocks and bonds and stuff, and started doing private lending about 3.5 years ago. And then when the pandemic hit last year, that's when I started kind of taking a change at things and trying to see what else is out there, because business slowed down on the mortgage side for the first little bit. And I kind of thought there's got to be something more out here to make sure that I've got different sources of income. And that's when I started to stumble across your podcast and a few others. And then started about 6 months journey of learning anything and everything I could. I listened to every single podcast that was out there, every one of yours, Sarah Larby's, Gary Hibbert's, rock stars. And then in January, I took the plunge, finally convinced the wife that we can do this. And we bought a property 4.5 hours away from us in Chatham, actually just outside of Chatham called Wallsburg. So that's where we started. Picked up a property off market. Yeah, it was. So listening to your podcast, I heard you have a lot of different wholesalers on and different people. So every time you had someone on, I would just connect with them and just start growing my network and, conversating with people. And I found an off-market deal for just over 110,000 and ran the numbers. As a mortgage agent, I have a purview system, which I'm sure you know. Yeah. And was able to check comps, and comps are anywhere from 180 to 220. And so picking it up for 115, I'm figuring, anywhere between 35 and 50K in carrying costs and renos in this place. I could turn it out and make a decent profit, or even if it was 180, I'll make 10 or 15 grand, and it's at least a learning experience.
Right. Allan, quick question for you. Do you have your microphone on your earpiece?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it's kind of coming in and then like going away. It's like getting it's kind of getting like tinny and thin. Like there's no range to it. I'm wondering if maybe we try your built-in computer microphone. Like you can just switch it right on Zoom there. You can still use the earphones for hearing. I don't know. Maybe it'll help.
Yeah, let's give that a shot.
Otherwise, we'll make do.
It's not letting me get into it now.
Just in the bottom left-hand side of the Zoom window where the little microphone mute button is, if you hit the up arrow, it doesn't show you your other options?
No, it closed it down completely.
No, but you're in your Zoom window now, right?
Yeah, I'm on my cell phone now.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that'll probably make a difference. Damn. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just continue on then.
Okay. I can try to boot it up here on the computer. It's asking me to update everything now. All right. Well, you want to just continue on?
Yeah, I'm just worried that the sound won't carry over well. Okay, so where did we leave off? You said that you pulled the trigger. Your wife gave you kind of the okay. You guys bought the property in Wallaceburg. You had done some comps being a mortgage broker, and I think that's roughly where we ended up.
Yeah, sorry about that. So bought the property and was running some numbers to realize that we've got an opportunity here, even at the low end, 15 to 20K, and on the high end, maybe 40 to 50K, and profit from flipping this property. I also ran some numbers on option B. If we keep it, what would the rents look like? And rent was somewhere in the range of anywhere between 1,500 to maybe $2,000, because the bonus on this property, it had about a 700 square foot garage in the back. Yeah, so looked at it a few different ways, exit strategies. Learning from your podcast, you always said to have, option A, B, and C. So option A was to flip the property, make a profit, and get some money to, convert to something that's closer to our house here in the Durham region. Option B was to turn it into a rental because it had good rental capacity to be, close to the 1% rule.
Okay.
And then option C, we could look at rent to own if we needed to. So we bought the place, closed on it off market within like 2 weeks. And we drove out there, and it was close to being, the garage was definitely a hoarder's place. He had 500 water bottles in there, the big jugs, and he had left his underwear, left everything. And my wife walks in and she's just like, what are we doing with this? And so after, kind of things calmed down for a little bit, we started throwing stuff in the bin that we got, and the place was pretty nice. We put about 30 to 40 grand into it. New flooring, trim, paint, whole new kitchen, new water tank, whole new furnace system, because the place only had electric heats through a fireplace, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
After about 8 weeks or so of doing some renovations, we were able to try to get it on the market for a rental, because we knew what the rental rates would be. I listened to a local property manager, and he said with that garage, we could command $2,000 rents. So being new, I took his advice, and I was like, all right, well, $2,000, I'm going to put this on the market. I'm going to cash flow about $1,000 a month on this place. About 5 weeks went by, and not a single solid applicant. Not one person filled out an application, and just a couple of tire kickers. So I jumped on Facebook and different places to try and find people myself. And everybody that was applying was, no job, ODSP, moving from Ottawa and expecting to hope to find work in the middle of the pandemic, but didn't have anything lined up. So that's when we shifted gears and we said, all right, let's go back to plan A and let's throw it on the market. And within a week, we had a bully offer of 225. So we cleared a little over 50,000, and then minus taxes, what we get taxed from it. So it was a good start to our real estate investing.
Yeah. So you think you were just way over on your expectation for the 2,000 a month?
Yeah, I think it was. I think he kind of steered us wrong a little bit, and it might have been perfect for the right person, but who knows how long we would have had to wait, maybe 3-4 months to find that perfect person that would find the benefit of that garage.
Right. Yeah. I think that you nailed it on the head. There's certain things where they're definitely valuable, but you need the right buyer or the right renter in this case. And yeah, do you want to wait that out or not? So I guess in this case you didn't. So that was flip number one.
Flip number one.
Are you buying more properties to hold now?
So as we're doing the middle of that progress, about a week later after we closed on this property, we bought a property in Peterborough. So we bought a really cool property in Peterborough that was a single family, about 1,300 square feet, 2-story, 2-bed house. And in the back of the house was a 2-story, 1,600 square foot barn. So what made this unique is that barn, it's already pre-existing. So I can manipulate that structure to turn it into a garden suite.
Okay.
So that's where we figured this was going to be a good buy. We picked that up for 504, and that was closing in 120 days. So that was going to be closing in the beginning of May. Okay. So while we're doing this flip, this property is waiting to close, and it ended up working perfectly. We closed on that property in Peterborough May 7th, and the flip closed on May 10th.
Oh, okay. So you just had some extra funds to bridge that, and then you got a whole bunch of cash in your pocket. All
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so we just used our line on our primary residence to do the down payment and everything.
Very cool. And as far as the one you bought with the barn in the backyard, have you already done that project? Is that complete?
Well, here's the fun part. So the project was supposed to be a 4 to 6 month project converting the barn. We're going to be turning that into a 3-unit place when it's all completed. We're waiting on Bill 108 to be passed in Peterborough. So the upper unit was supposed to be 800 square foot, 2-bedroom, exposed beams in the ceiling, a really cool barn rustic feel to it. Mm-hmm. So we hired a contractor that came well respected, and we're about 5 months into the project when it was supposed to be 4 to 6, and he comes back to us and says, I need a ton more money. And I said, well, what do you mean you need more money from us? You told us that this is the contingency and that we won't go over. And then we look at the work that was completed, and some of the work looked really questionable. So I had another plumber come in, and he looked at the work, and we had the city inspector come in, and nothing passed. So we ended up letting our contractor go in September. And so now I've been trying to deal with the city to get things passed. It took about a month to get the plumbing past inspection. And then, so I had the inspection for framing, and that didn't pass. So now I've been going back to that contractor that had the engineer draw the plans, and he didn't end up following anything to do with the engineer's plans. So now it's been on standstill, and we've been fighting with the contractor to try and get new engineering plans. We just got them last week, and now we're going ahead with a new contractor to get this place completed.
Man, yeah, it sounds like you're having one of those experiences I've had. I mean, so many people have had that kind of thing. It's so messy too when you want to fire a contractor halfway through. How did you manage that?
It was a very tough conversation because this is new to me and my wife. I didn't really want to do that because he was supposed to be generally contracting this whole thing from stem to stern. Mm-hmm. So it was a very tough decision, but ultimately we just weren't sure if he had the best, experience dealing with this barn. So we ended up just saying okay, well, where are we at? What do we do to let go? And he guaranteed the work that he did. He said everything that he's done to this point, which is the framing, the plumbing, and the HVAC will pass inspection. And we said, okay, no problem. All right, let's cut ties. And I already paid him some big lump sums, a little over 60,000 to do the barn. And then here we are now, and nothing's passed.
So did he come back and rectify any of that? No. So he didn't really guarantee it. He just said he did.
No. He just said he did. He said he guaranteed his work for 2 years, and here we are today. 3 months passed when the project was supposed to be completed, and I've been fighting with him and trying to get new contractors lined up. Had a few contractors come through and they just said like, this work is just terrible. I don't even want to take on the job.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing this because so many people just want to share all the roses and lollipops parts of real estate. I mean, this was the reality for me, like just miserable experience with bad contractor in Ohio when I got started, and similar things. Do you think, like, kind of looking back on it, like how would you have approached it differently? Because I know you got a good recommendation. And this is always for me, like why I've been such a control freak. Like, what would you have done differently, and how would you have seen it kind of working out better?
So, as frustrating as this is, and I think it's been a good learning experience, because I got thrusted into general contracting, something I've never done, and so I think now, having the experience that I have now, I would have been on site a little bit more. I would have been wanting to meet the inspectors and have inspections a little bit more frequently. I was scared at first, thinking, the inspectors are going to be a headache or, cause problems and stuff. But that's not the case. That's not what I've learned now, being, speaking with them and meeting the different inspectors on site now. I think I would have just been a little more hands-on, being there a little bit more instead of being hands-off. That's what I would have probably done differently.
Yeah, with the inspectors, they really are helpful in a lot of cases. I mean, on one hand, you're trying to appease them, but on the other hand, if you talk to them beforehand, say, what do you want to see? I think that they appreciate that because you're kind of stroking their ego a little bit, and you're telling them you want to play ball with their rules. So why wouldn't they like that? And at the end of the day, they're a city employee that gets paid the same amount of money, regardless. So what's it hurt for them to take the time and talk to you? I find that they are generally kind of helpful with that. Just as long as you're respectful to them, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people that have screwed things up by getting mad at them or saying things to them or challenging them on their decisions and requests. Yeah, in my experience, don't do that. It doesn't actually work out well. So
no, probably not.
No, they just get all prickly. They're like, no, this is what I want to see. No conversation about it. So that's been an interesting thing to navigate. But yeah, so good learning lesson. I agree. Like, these are the best teachers. Like, the lessons you've learned, as much as other people can hear our stories, the lesson you learned by living it is one you'll never forget. And that's why I just always like to have an oversight on things. I don't want to do the work myself, but this is why I say, if people want to invest in new areas, and I was going to ask you, how you doing that? Like, how'd you invest in Wallaceburg and then Peterborough? Like, I want to be there. And I would say to anybody, go to those cities and be able to have an eye early on until your team is trustworthy. Like, they got to earn your trust before you just give it. And so in Wallaceburg, you got luckier, I guess, is the way of putting that.
Yeah, in a sense. We still weren't completely lucky because, I hired someone I trusted, my father, actually. My dad was just a kind of a handyman. So the work that needed to be done in Wallaceburg was, pretty simple stuff for the most part: flooring, trim, paint, installing a basic kitchen and stuff. And then we subcontracted the HVAC and the water tank. But we got unlucky because he called me about a week and a half in, and we noticed the kitchen floor was a little squishy. Yeah. So we ripped up the floorboards and the plywood, and he noticed that the entire back wall he could stick his hand through. And he said that it's rotted about 4 feet into the kitchen. So we're freaking out. My wife and I are like, this is, my dad says this is above his grade. He doesn't know what to do. So, we had no choice. We had nothing to do but just pick up the phone. So I started calling contractors in Wallaceburg, and luckily got an older retired guy that used to do this type of structural work for a living. Came in for $5,000 and tore up 4 feet across the entire kitchen, put up a new back wall, put up new bracings under the floor and new window and everything, and did all the work for $5,000 when we got 10 to 15,000 quotes from other people. So, and
was that materials included?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, so you got a guy. He gave you an honest price there, like just like the price he would have charged. Not trying to take advantage of you in the situation, but
absolutely.
I love what you said there. Like, when you have no other option, you just find a way. And as much as that sounds so uncomfortable, I had to remind myself of that. Of all the things I've done, I just thrust myself into them. I felt pretty prepared on a lot of them, but there was always those gaps where I had to figure it out. And when you're in it, man, I'd be on my phone all day long. I'm like, I need to get this place sold. I need to get this place finished. Just never ending, right? Just on the phone all day long. But I didn't mind it. It felt like it felt like progress the whole way through, right? But whereas if you think about that before you do the investment, you might actually talk yourself out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where you got to be somewhat prepared for yourself, listening to the podcasts and networking.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing, because if I'd kind of fallen into this and just thought everything, like you said, was roses and, rainbows, you're going to hear some stories where some investors share some stuff, but there is going to be situations that are difficult, and you got to be prepared for that. You got to have backup cash available, and you got to be ready for those sleepless nights.
Mm-hmm. It just sounds really, really unappealing when you say it like that.
But then you get through it, and then it's after we flipped it, and then you see that certified check get deposited for 45 grand, 50 grand.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, okay, like that's some people's living for a year, and I did this in 90 days.
Yeah, that is the saving grace of it all. Yeah, it reminds me of how everybody just keeps telling me, they're like, "Oh, get your sleep now because I got a baby on the way." They keep saying, encouraging little things like that, and I got to tell you guys, I really appreciate it.
When's the wife due?
The 23rd. So
okay. Right.
Probably by the time this airs, he'll already be here, because I think this will air in January. But yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting time. But this is another one of those things, right? Well, I guess I got no choice at this point. He's coming, so we'll figure it out.
We've got our second girl coming on the way too. She'll be due in April.
Oh, congratulations! Nice. Yep. So it wasn't so bad the first time around. You did decide to do it again.
Yes. Yeah. We made the conscious decision that, we'll do it again and let's go with it. So, I mean, it's been a big learning curve going through dealing with the city myself and subcontracting different people to do the different jobs, finding a plumber, finding an electrician and stuff. But I've learned so much over the last 3 months by doing this, being thrusted into this, that I have the confidence I can do this again and again and again.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that is, now you got a team in Peterborough, like you have direct contacts, people that know you, and they know how to deal with you. They know what they can expect with dealing with you. And I think most business people would rather deal with a known quantity than an unknown quantity. So build on that. Why not? And just keep going with it. And I like it. Like, I mean, what you've gone through is similar to what I've gone through. Like, out of necessity, I became my own general contractor. And that's why I never really felt like I could go back the other way, because I knew I could do things efficiently, get good pricing, and get it done the way I wanted it done. But doesn't mean that GCs aren't awesome if you can find a good one. It's just going through that experimentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what else you got working on?
Right now, just trying to get this done.
Okay.
I almost pulled the trigger on a fourplex in Bowmanville during this process. Was trying to negotiate a VTB. And, just decided to hold off. This was right when we were looking at this, was in August, when things were starting to fall apart with the contractor. So kind of glad I didn't, because our financing, we needed that extra money we've got on our home equity line of credit to just kind of fund this as we're losing money every month. So, but after this is done, well, the good thing is I can flip that lower unit into, making this a 3-unit building in another year or so when Bill 108 passes.
Gotcha. So Bill 108 already passed at a provincial level, did it not? So you're just waiting for it to be implemented in...
Correct, at the city level in Peterborough. Yeah.
Okay. What do you figure you're going to get as a value when that third unit is done?
I think it'll be close to $1 million when the third unit's done. The second unit is going to be, I'm thinking, somewhere between 8 and 825, I'm hoping.
Yeah, 825 when you finish the rear yard, the barn unit. So you're doing the barn unit first, and then you'll go back and do the basement inside.
It'll actually be the basement of the barn. So the barn is, the barn is actually 2 stories, all above grade. Mm-hmm. So the upper level has about a 20 by 20 deck, nice, outdoor space, and about 800 square feet up. And so then the lower unit of the barn will have another close to 750 square feet when it's said and done, because of the HVAC system in the lower level there. So
okay. So what do you think it's going to take to get all 3 finished, like all 3 finished units renovated and done?
We're probably looking at about 250,000 as a whole when it's completed.
It's really not that bad, man, for what you just described and the challenges. Doesn't sound too bad. And then you've obviously got carrying, or is carrying included in that?
Carrying is kind of included in that. Maybe another 5 or 10 grand.
Yeah.
We can call it 250, 260.
Okay. So you'll be in for about 764 on something worth $1 million. So we're talking perfect BRRRR if those numbers work out. Because if you get 80% on that, and what would you get hypothetically in rent across those 3 units?
So the main house is already rented for $2,100 and they pay utilities.
Okay.
However, we're not able to separate the utilities. So I've already been in negotiation with them about taking the average and then just adding it to their rent. So we might be going up to 2,400, including utilities.
Yeah, smart before the new units get added, so that you don't have to deal with that. Yeah,
exactly. So we'll know what they're at. So for now, just say 2,100 right now, I guess.
Okay.
I'm thinking somewhere for around 2,200 to 2,300, including utilities in the upper unit, and then the lower unit somewhere around 1,700 to 1,900.
Okay, so we'll say 22 for the upper and 1,700 for the lower.
1,700 for the lower.
Those are good rents. I didn't think you'd get as much in the barn, but I guess it's kind of picturesque back there. Looks nice.
It's going to look nice and finished. Like it's going to have probably close to 20-foot ceilings. It's going to have exposed beams. We're doing quartz countertops, in-suite laundry.
Nice.
Nice flooring. It's going to be a nice island. Everything. It's going to be done well.
Yeah. That's a good project to start on. Like that's definitely it's not a conversion. There's more to it than that. It's a nice little stretch for you. What do you figure you'll be in on taxes, property taxes?
Taxes right now are 3,600. I think maybe we'll be up to 5 grand.
Probably by the time to reassess. Yeah. Maybe we'll see. Okay. And then your insurance, you got 2 structures, so you're probably going to be like 2,500 maybe, you think?
Right now I'm only at 1,200 a year.
Really? Are they insuring the structure though in the rear?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say 1,700 then. When it's done.
Yeah, when it's done, and maybe they may be bumping it up because obviously there's more to it. So
it's a lot of space, right? And the other thing with insurance is like not all policies are equal. It depends on the coverage you want. There's those policies that have that diminishing coverage over time, where it's like if your building's 20 years old, they're going to give you value as if it's 20 years old versus replacement. But I'm not saying that's what you take, but there's so many variables with insurance. Okay, so maintenance, we'll say what, 5-6%, something like that.
Yeah, put in 5. That's what I did with my numbers.
Okay, 5, and then utilities. So that's where we're going to assume you're going to add the front house's utilities to them, to their rent. So you're really just going to be paying utilities on those rear units, right?
Yeah. So the front is about, they're doing about 2 to 250 a month roughly right now.
Right. So let's just assume that you increase their rent to cover that. So we just want to figure out what kind of utilities. You're not going to pay additional accounts. You're just going to be paying usage on water, sanitary, and gas and electric, right?
Yeah. Hydro's already separated. So there's a separate meter running to the barn.
So they'll do their own electric?
They'll do their own electric.
Okay. So you're just going to be water, sewer, and gas is all you're paying for the barn. So you'll probably be what, like 4,000 a year, you think, between all that? Or 3,000?
Yeah, you're probably about 300 and something bucks a month. So yeah, but say 3,600.
Okay.
For the 2 units.
All right. Management. You gonna pay management?
No, I'm gonna do it myself.
Okay. So landscaping, are you gonna be doing any of that, or all the tenants?
So the tenant is responsible for the landscaping and cutting the lawn and everything. I've hired a snowplow because it's a big driveway. So that's $680 a year.
Okay, $680. All right, and then I'll leave that 500 miscellaneous because I think you might need it with a place like that. Okay, so your cap rate looks pretty good. If assuming you get the 3rd unit, you'll be 569 or 5.69 cap rate. If you get 80%, you're going to be at 800,000, assuming you get that $1 million valuation. And let's just assume we're around 2.7 by the time you end up doing that. You could have cash flow of $1,500 a month on that place.
Sounds about what I've been measuring. Yeah. Even with the 2nd unit in place, I've been figuring somewhere around 900 to 1,100 a month cash flow.
That's great. Like I love the option that you can add more, and down the road they'll be able to utilize it better. And there's just probably a few different ways you can make money there. as far as the land goes, how much land you got there?
But a 60 by 180 lot.
So that's not small. That's nice.
No, it's big. It's big. Yeah.
So you got lots of parking for these units then?
Yep. I don't have to make any changes to the parking at all. So, which is nice.
Perfect. So is that through a wholesaler as well, this project?
No, this one was on MLS. And so we had put in offers on about 7 properties in the Lindsay and Peterborough area.
Yeah.
And this property, our realtor toured it for us, gave us a video, and we loved it. So we put an offer in, contingent an inspection. So we went out and saw it after we put the offer in, and we absolutely loved it. And so our offer was, at the time when offers had to go in at like 4:00 in the afternoon, there's no offers. So they had it up for $499, and we put in an offer of like $480. And then they didn't respond. And an hour later, another offer came in, substantially higher, they said. So we came back at $507.
Okay.
And they went with the other offer. So we lost the place. And then, so 2 days go by, and we just reached out to a realtor, and we just said, look, we really missed it. We didn't sleep last night. We really wanted this barn. And we said, just reach out to the realtor. If something ever happens, just let them know that we would still buy this place. So 2 days later, again, now almost a week's gone by, they came back to us and said, hey, does your offer still stand? They walked away from it. And we said, absolutely. So we got the inspection done, and a few things we had to change. So we ended up picking it up for $504.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, that barn, there was a lot you could have done. You could have been a house with a shop, or 3 units. Those are both.
Yeah.
So the existing house is probably pretty good size then. Can you recap me on how big the existing house is?
Yeah, it's about 1,300 square feet, 2-story, 2-bedroom.
Okay. So they got a whole basement they can use as well, unfinished?
The basement's unfinished, but it's more of a crawl space. It's only about a 5-foot high basement because it's a century home.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So if this, is this type of deal still possible to find?
No.
No? What would you be paying for this if this was on the market now?
Probably $650.
Wow. Man, I know a lot of people like this appreciation. I don't. I want steady. It's fun kind of in a way, but I want steady, predictable. Yeah, this is predictable maybe in a bad way, but
it makes it really easy to do a perfect BRRRR, but then when you're done, you got to go buy something else. Well, you have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, well, because rents are never going to go up as fast as the prices are going up. They trail, right? So it's just going to make it harder to cash flow it eventually. You'll finish project 1, and then you'll want to do number 2, but oh wait, now I can't get that same deal, or I can't get another one that works. I should never say can't. Can't doesn't exist. It's just, is it more challenging? And
yes.
For sure. So what are you looking at for future? What's your next move?
Still interested in Peterborough, because I think the rents are really good there. It's a good tenant base. It's close to home where I can self-manage. So I live in Whitby, so it's an hour away. So hoping, there. But I'm also looking in Sudbury, North Bay. Yeah. I've been looking in Belleville, Trenton, and a few other smaller cities, kind of east and north, just because the entry level is easier.
Right. Yeah. What about Cornwall?
Cornwall is the other one.
Yeah. That's far, but what's your attitude with this? Just I don't care if I don't have a team, I'll figure it out. I'll buy the property and figure it out.
I think so. Yeah. I did it with Wallaceburg. I found some contractors, just call up people and just get a good vibe from talking to someone. So, obviously I had a bad experience with this guy on the barn, but I think I can handle almost anything now being through this.
Man, those words, it's like music to my ears. I think I can handle almost anything. So it was worth it, man. It's tuition.
That's exactly it. You could sit here on the bench and think about what ifs and do nothing. And then, all of a sudden now that $500,000 house is $700,000, you missed out. So just jump in and do it. Yeah.
Okay. So just kind of quick on the mortgages side of things. I know you're doing mortgages. Are you mostly helping investors?
I'm starting to go that route. I work for a team. So I'm technically a salary plus commission structure,
Gotcha.
Very different than most mortgage agents. So we work on a team. So for the last 3 years, I've been doing just more of that type of side of things. But then when I started this process, I started growing things and,
now I have investors reaching out to me for mortgages. So I've done several for investors, getting them mortgages, private seconds to finish off BRRRR projects, or, leveraging a property to buy another property.
Yeah.
And we've got a strong network on the B side. And a lot of private connections. So for a lot of people that are, hitting the wall with 3, 4, 5 units or properties, on the A side, I've got connections on the B side where they're still going to fund, up to 10 units or infinite amounts with certain credit unions we can work with.
Okay. Like your credit unions kind of lend in the B category as well? Yeah.
Some of them are in the B category, or they've got a residential commercial package where they'll do infinite funding, investors.
And that's what I've talked about on the show a lot, why I like credit unions. It's sort of similar to the commercial banking arms of the big banks, in that like they'll do infinite as long as you meet their criteria and they build a relationship with you. You look qualified to manage that, that type of asset. So yeah, that's definitely, I think, the bigger picture for a lot of investors. Like when you go through elementary school and you get to high school and you're like, okay, now we transition over to the mix of commercial, residential, and keep growing from there.
Yeah, I think that a lot of them do hit that wall and they don't know where to go.
Right.
And you've got that opportunity where, you just hear a no from the bank, and, a lot of even regular clients hear a no from the bank and they're like, well, what do I do now? Scotia won't help me, or BMO won't help me. What do I do?
Exactly. And so many people think that they just need to go and run a JV. And I know I started off this podcast when I first started launching the episode saying, like, there are other ways. You don't need the JV. Like, I think personally people should JV if they see a benefit beyond just the lending and the money set side of things. It should be a kind of a more of a team thing. But anyways, not to get tangent. Allan, anything else you would have wanted to share before we wrap up?
I think for new investors, because I haven't been in this very long, only just a little over a year now since I really started to look into this, it's possible. I'm sure there's people listening to your podcast or other podcasts where they're wondering, what do they do? Just start reaching out to investors. Like, I can't remember how many times I've reached out to you and you've been amazing at giving me advice. Kellen has been another person that's been great. For the first 6 to 8 months, I asked a million questions, and everybody that I've reached out to has been unbelievable at just sharing information. And I think that's all you need to do. You just got to make connections, grow your network. I'm a strong believer in the quote, your network is your net worth. And, if I didn't have the connections I have with all the Peterborough investors that, I'm in the WhatsApp group that Jared Henderson started in Peterborough. And there's 60 or 70 of us in there now. And being in that group it's unbelievable the help that everybody gives each other. So, and we're all, buying for the same properties in Peterborough, but we're not competitive. We're there to help each other, get through any experience we need. So sharing insurance companies, sharing, anything. So I think you just need to get out there, get yourself speaking to people, because it's possible to do, different stuff out there.
That's really cool that he's got that going on, that he started that WhatsApp group. I had the Greater Hamilton Facebook group going for a while, and I clearly didn't do the policies right, because it eventually just turned into a spam fest. So I might have to redo that group down the road, but we'll figure that one out. But he actually asked me about that group too. And I'm just like, well, I'm not in Peterborough, but I mean, if I was, that's what a value that is for anybody who's investing up there. So very cool. How do people reach you or connect with you if they want to do so?
Easiest way is probably Instagram. My name, Allan, Allan, and then Bell, BELL_REI.
Okay.
I'll answer any question. And then my contact information for the brokerage is in there as well too. And then They can follow along and hopefully see the completion of this barn project over the next couple of months.
Yeah. Do you have some pictures of it on your Instagram?
Yeah, I got a few pictures, a video walkthrough of the up and lower levels of what it looks like. And,
now that you've described it, I want to check it out. So
have a look. Cool. It's kind of neat.
Cool, man. Well, it was nice connecting with you. Finally getting a chance to chat face to face through the computer anyway. And I look forward to seeing you knock this one out of the park and get it finished.
I hope so. I appreciate you letting me on here.
My pleasure. All right. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.